Here we are in section 3.2 exercises, part C, numbers 31 through 36, and it says to solve, which means we're getting the x or t or n by itself on one side. And here was a summary in the section on what we could do to handle every single thing that a math teacher could throw at us. So let's start with number 31. So step number 1, it says to simplify, do we have any parentheses? We don't have any parentheses. Number 2, do we have any fractions? We do have fractions. And how do we get rid of fractions? We multiply through by the least common denominator. Well, we've got a denominator of 3 here, so that's the only denominator. So let's multiply through by a least common denominator of 3. And we get 3 times 7/3, that cancels, and we're left with 7t. 3 times 2 is a 6. 3 times 19 is 57. And 3 times 5t is a 15t. Look how much cleaner that looks. No fractions whatsoever. Now, do we have multiple t's? Yes, and we've got to combine those like terms all onto one side of the equation. So we've got to either get rid of the 7t or get rid of that 15t. So we choose and we pick one of them and say, you are out of here. We've got to get rid of one of them. So we subtract 7t from both sides, and we're left with negative 6 on the left-hand side equals, and on the right-hand side we get 57 plus 57 plus 8t. Okay, good. Now the t is all together by itself. We're down here and we have these two steps left. Get rid of the addition and subtraction. So subtract 57 from both sides. Oh, that's nice. And we are left with negative 6 minus 57 is a negative 63. They're both negatives, and they go further in that direction, equals 8t. So divide both sides by this 8 to undo it, and we are left with t equals negative 63/8. Let's check our answer. And there we have t equals negative 63/8. If you were to have chosen to stick that in a calculator and you got a decimal of like 7.875 in the negative direction, that's okay too. All right, the next one, number 32. Do we have any parentheses? We do. Well, let's jump this guy in. We get negative 3/4 x plus 3/4 times 4. That's 3. Yeah, this is 3 over 4 times 4 over 1. Multiply those two together and we get 12 over 4, which is 3, equals 5 plus 2x. Great, the parentheses are now gone. What about the fractions? Yes, we do have fractions. What's the least common denominator here? Well, we have a denominator of 4, but that's really the only one. So we multiply through by that denominator 4, and look at that magic happen. We get rid of the fractions. We have negative 3x plus, this becomes a 12. That's 4 times 3 equals. On the right-hand side, we have 4 times 5 is 20, and 4 times 2 is 8x right there. Good. Now we've got multiple x's, and we've got to combine them together to simplify this thing up. We've got to get rid of either the negative 3x or the plus 8x. Let's get rid of this minus 3x by adding 3x to both sides of the equation. And we now have, that guy's gone, so we get 12 equals 20 plus 11x. Now we're down to getting rid of the addition, subtraction, or the multiply and divide. So get rid of the 20 by subtracting 20 from both sides. And we have negative 8 equals 11x. Divide both sides by this 11 as that final and last step, and we have x equals negative 8/11. Let's check our answer. And it has x equals negative 8/11. You could stick it into your calculator and get the decimal of that if you so chose. Number 33. 1/6 x minus 4 equals 3 plus 3/10 x. Do we have any parentheses? Nope, we don't. Do we have any fractions? Yes, we do. We've got a 6 for a denominator and a 10 for a denominator. So we need to think about the least common denominator of what 6's can go into and what 10's can go into. Not what numbers can go into them, like a 2, but what they can go into. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. Oh, that's a multiple of 10. So there we have it. Multiply by 30 everywhere. multiply by 30, multiply by 30. Well, what does that do for us here? It's like a magic wand that 30 times 1/6 is 5, and that is now gone. Yeah, it leaves a 5 up there. Minus 30 times 4, that's minus 120, equals 30 times 3 is 90, plus 3/10 times 30, that's going to be, let me see, that leaves a 3. 3 times 3 is 9, 9x. Or you could punch that in your calculator, 30 times 3/10, and get a 9. Yeah, the fractions are now gone. That least common denominator worked like magic. So we're now down here to this other part of simplifying, combining the like terms. Well, the x's are in two different locations. We got to get rid of one of them here because they're on opposite sides of the equal sign. How do we get rid of this 5x or that 9x? Well, we subtract it. Subtract 5x, subtract 5x from both sides. And Shazam, on the left-hand side now does not have x's. We have negative 120 equals 90 plus 4x. Good. Now we're down here. It's simplified. That's simplicity right there. Now we're going to take care of the addition and subtraction. So subtract 90 from both sides. Now this is negative 120 minus 90, which is negative 210 equals 4x. And then multiply, divide, get rid of that. Get rid of the 4. And we're left with x equals, and that looks like 52.5, I think. Let's plug that in the calculator and double check here. We have 210 negative divided by 4 equals negative 52.5. Let's double check that in the answers. Negative 52.5 is correct. Number 34. Ooh, this looks like a big one. 5 halves, parentheses, negative 4x minus 2 equals 3/4 x plus 6. There are fractions and parentheses and everything. Let's take it just one step at a time. Question number 1. Got any parentheses? Indeed we do. Let's distribute. So we get 5 halves times negative 4. This is negative 4 over 1, so that's a negative 10x. Then jump it into there, and we get negative 5. 5 halves times 2 gives us a 5 equals 3/4 x plus a 6. Hey, most of our fractions are already gone, but we still have one left. So we look up here. That's the next thing. Take care of the fractions. Indeed. So the least common denominator, we only have one denominator, and that's a 4. So times by 4, times by 4, times by 4, times by 4. So we really distributed the 4 into both sides. So now we have negative 40x minus 20 equals, that 4 cancels with that. That's why we did it, was to get rid of the fractions. 3x plus 24. Wow, like magic, we don't have those anymore. Don't have fractions. So now we've got to combine all the like terms. Well, all on the left-hand side are combined, all on the right-hand side are combined, but we have multiple x's in two different places. So we've got to get rid of one of them. Let's get rid of this negative 40x by adding 40x to both sides of the equation. Over on the left-hand side, it just cancels out. But on the right-hand side, we're left with something. Let's write it all down. Negative 20 equals, now that is a 43x plus a 24. Excellent. Now we're down to simplicity, and we have just these two steps left. We take care of the addition subtraction, subtract 24 from both sides, and we get minus 44 equals 43x. Now we take care of that multiplication and division. We undo multiplication with the divide by 43, divide by 43, and we're left with x equals, those guys cancel, negative 44 over 43. Let's check that answer. Negative 44 over 43. Excellent. And you could leave it as a decimal if you so chose. Number 35. Here we have, this one looks like these are all divided by 3 and those are all divided by 6. So they're grouped. We're going to need to get rid of these fractions right away. What's the least common denominator of 3 and 6? Well, 3 does go into 6, so let's multiply both sides by 6. On the right hand side, this 6 just cancels and we're left with a 5x plus 8. And on the left hand side when we do it, the 6 cancels with the 3, leaving a 2. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and it looks like we need that 2 to multiply the whole x minus 5. So we kind of have to introduce parentheses right there to make sure that the 2 hits everything that was on the top of that fraction. So we kind of took care of the fractions, and we now have to do the parentheses. So we're simplifying, just kind of switching the 1 and the 2 a little bit. All right, so we jump the 2 in, and we get 2x minus 10 equals 5x plus 8. Okay, now we're down on this sub-step number 3 here. Combine like terms, the 2x and the 5x are on opposite sides of the equation, so we got to get rid of them. Let's get rid of this 2x. Get rid of that 2x. That cancels it on the left-hand side. And over here, it makes it so that we can have all the x's together. Negative 10 equals 3x plus 8. Oh, good. Now we're down here to step number 2, add or subtract. So we subtract this 8 from both sides. We get negative 18 equals 3x. Oh, yeah, I like that. This looks like it'll come out even nice. How do we get rid of that 3? Well, the opposite of multiplication. We divide by 3, we divide by 3, and we get x equals negative 6. Let's double check that answer. X equals negative 6. Good. And number 36, the last one here. Let's do step number 1. Do we have any parentheses? We don't right now. Do we have any fractions? Yes, we do. Least common denominator between a 14 and a 7 looks like a 14. So times by 14, times by 14, times by 14. Ooh, so here it just cancels and we're left with x plus 7 equals 14 times 6 is 84 minus, now 3/7 times 14. It's going to cancel and leave a 2. 2 times 3 is 6x. Double check that in your calculator. 3/7 times 14, you could do it like this. 3 divided by 7 times 14 equals, and you'll see it's a 6. Okay. Do we have, no, we don't have parentheses, we don't have fractions. Oh, but the x's are still in opposite places. So we've got to get rid of one of these sets of x's. So we add 6x, and we're left with 7x plus 7 equals 84. Oh, look at that. We've got a simplified equation. So now we can add and subtract. So subtract 7 from both sides. And we've got 7x equals 77. Divide by 7, and x equals 11. Let's double check our answer. X equals 11. Good.